Hey!
Welcome, everybody, to If These Heels Could Talk. My name is Michelle with Bad Cat Digital, and this is
JoyGenea with Solutions by JoyGenea.
And today we are talking about confabulation.
Yes! Do you know what that means?
Gesundheit.
That's a good one.
Right? So, yesterday, JoyGenea sent me a picture of a page from Brene Brown's Dare to Lead.
Yes. That was last month's book of the month that we read through. And she had a great, on page 261, if you're like, I've got this book and where did she find that? It's on page 261. And it says, confabulation is really great and a subtle definition. And she goes into explaining confabulation, her definition, is a lie told honestly.
Okay, a lie told honestly. So this took a minute. When you sent it to me, I kept reading. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
And so the keep reading is, to confabulate is to replace missing information with something false that we believe to be true.
Okay, so I, of course, being the dork that I am, looked up on the wiki.
I'll pass this to Michelle.
Yes.
Michelle will dig deeper, and tomorrow we will have.
I looked this up on the wiki. So the fabulous crowdsource that is Wikipedia. And they define confabulation as a psychological term. A memory error defined as the production of fabricated, distorted, or misinterpreted memories about oneself or the world. And I started reading into this, and I started thinking, well, who would do this? This is obviously some sort of because I was reading the Wikipedia article,
right,
and it's talking about all of the different illnesses or conditions wherein confabulation is a symptom.
Yes.
Right? It's talking about things like Alzheimer's and things right? Mm-hmm. But what struck me about the difference between the Wikipedia psychological definition and Brene Brown's definition is that Brene Brown talks about it in everyday life. Yes. And she talks about it as something that everybody does. And it's absolutely true that everybody does it.
Absolutely. And I think the number one person we lie to, and I've said it before,
is ourselves.
It is.
It's ourselves.
Yep.
So the example that she gives two examples. One example is people who are asked to select from among, 6 pairs of socks or something.
Yeah.
And every single person who picked a pair of socks gets asked, why did you pick that particular pair? And every single one has some sort of story. It reminded me of this, or it was softer or silkier, or the thread count, or blah, 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 blah,
Whatever
blah.
matters to them.
Whatever matters to them. The thing is that all of the socks were identical.
Yep.
So, but not one person said, I don't know.
I just picked a sock.
You told me to pick a sock. I picked a sock.
Right. I don't know why I picked this one.
But that's exactly what it was, right? We all have to make up. And what I liken this to is and a lot of times people think that they make rational decisions about the things that they're going to buy.
Oh.
But when we want something.
It's rational to us. Again,
right.
In our
when
world.
we want something or we see something that we want, it's like our emotions want it, but our brain needs to rationalize why we want it.
Yes.
And so we come up with all of these reasons.
We rationalize.
And the same thing happens. I watch the same thing happen when I just want something done in a particular way, and I'm trying to communicate that to somebody, and it's not enough for me to just say, that's how I want it. Will you please do it that way?
And why isn't it?
I don't know. That's my point.
What
happens if I just say, I don't know why I want it that way. It's the way it makes sense to me, and it's how I want it done. Could you please do it that way?
Yeah.
But instead, we make up all of these things about why we want it that way, which are increasingly stupid.
Oh, yes.
And here in the great Midwest, where Minnesota nice reigns, you will also hear this happen when somebody gets asked to do something they don't want to do, and they come up with all these dumb reasons why they can't do it.
Yes.
You ask somebody to go to something, and all of a sudden they're shampooing their grandma's cat's
Yes,
doll.
In the middle of an avocado peel that's drying. And
right.
It's just not the, I can't right now.
So all of these dumb reasons when they just can't say, man, I don't want to.
Right. And it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay to not want to.
So that's what Brene Brown is talking about when she talks about confabulation.
It was great. We had our little book club meeting, and I came up with another scenario where we totally use confabulation in not meaning to away, but I think people really need to grasp that. And that is in communication with our clients totally. Or in the halo effect. in a meeting with the boss, just about everybody at that table is telling the boss what the boss wants to hear.
Right, and not what the boss needs to know.
Yes.
I thought about this. You know, it's so funny because I was watching, for some random reason, I evidently wanted this feeling on Sunday, and I was watching Saving Private Ryan.
Ooh,
awesome movie if you haven't seen it, if you're too young, because I just realized that all of those movies that I love from the late 90s and early 2000s, young people have never heard of or haven't seen. But anyway.
Yes.
So depressing. But I was watching Saving Private Ryan, and there's this moment at the beginning, you know, at the beginning when they're storming the beach and they have to call in to command and tell them, kind of give them the status.
Yeah.
And
which is holy heck.
There's no good news.
No.
They're simply saying this is the status.
Yep.
But here's the thing. I was thinking about that in the context of a modern workplace. Nobody would do that. Right. They would not just say this is the status of the project and the status of the project is nowhere.
Okay, then the status of the project is nowhere.
Right. Instead, they try to kind of like make it seem better than it is.
We've been waiting for the client to get back to us.
Right, and we don't have this, and we don't have that. And all anybody wants is the information. Because with the information, we can take the next step. So they can't confabulate.
Right.
They have to, in that life or death situation, they have to say, this is the bald fact. And nobody who's reporting what is happening is thinking, well, then this means that my commander is going to think that I failed because we didn't take the beach.
No, they're not thinking that.
Because they are small pieces of a large plan.
And they can see that, and they're in the middle of a war. Like,
yeah, it is what it is. Like, you told us to do something. We went and did it. It didn't have the impact any of us wanted. Here's what's happening.
Yeah, here's the play-by-play.
And that kind of concept to me was so interesting. It's so interesting that it happened.
From a leadership perspective, it was refreshing. I'm looking at that face and I'm like, oh, she liked the idea of that.
I did. I really like the idea of that. I just want the information. This isn't a blame thing. Yeah.
Yes. So how do we help our staff understand it's not a blame thing? How do we help people step into that? Because I think so often, I called somebody on it yesterday. We were in a meeting and somebody haloed the boss. Right. And I said, pause. I think you told him what you think he wants to hear. And I said, and that's okay. But I said, I'm pretty sure he's going to make a bunch of decisions off of that. I need, let's do a do-over on that. Like, let's pretend you didn't say that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
and try again.
And just hit us with the truth bomb on this one.
Right.
And they were like, okay, so the truth is, this is delayed. This we can't get a hold of. This subcontractor went down with COVID, and so we're behind. And so I'm like, okay, knowing that, what do you think the new expectation date is for, realistically? And he threw out a number, and I truly stared at the poor man. He goes, you're right. I need 2 more weeks. And he added that on, and then I'm like, okay, now he can make decisions. And like, he would have made decisions off what you said. And everybody was sitting, there were enough people. Everyone sitting there, I could tell, was like, oh, it's okay. Like, that's what that might feel like. And what it might feel like is just us working together to come to something. Right. It's not a blame thing. It's not a performance thing. It's just I need the information thing. And I need accurate information because I'm going to make a bunch more decisions off of this.
And here's what I think. I think this has a severe impact on teamwork. I think it has a severe impact on collaboration. And I think it unknowingly, unwittingly, and without intending to, sets up an adversarial relationship between the person providing information and the person who needs the information.
Oh, that's a really good point. And what a waste of time and energy. Again,
what a waste of energy.
That slow down.
It just slows everything down.
So right before the new year, like literally New Year's Eve, I got this random phone call from somebody with one heck of a digital disaster.
Okay.
Hijacked website, couldn't find domain name, like...
Oh my gosh.
The whole 9 yards. And he's staring at some email that's like, you only have 2 more days before this shuts down.
Oh my gosh.
Right, the whole thing.
Over the holidays, can't get a hold of anybody.
Right. And so I could just hear all of his panic, and I don't know what it was, but in the moment I'm like, you're just going to be my Hail Mary thing at the end of the year. Like, I'm going to give you an hour... I told him that. I said, I got to make dinner in an hour. You have 1 hour to get this all on the table. And what was really refreshing is because I had no skin in the game, but understood his frustration. It was really being empathetic to him. I wasted no time with confabulation with him. None. I'm like, oh, wow, you screwed this up really bad.
Yeah.
Oh. And when he gave me a Hotmail email address, I said, are you using this for your business? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, that ends in 2021. If that is not moving forward, you need an official email.
Yeah.
He goes, nobody's had the courage to tell me that. I said, well, you're talking to me and you've already given me your credit card and you're paying me because I'm not even, we didn't move forward from that point.
Right.
Once I dug in, I was like, well, you're just going to need to give me a credit card. You're paying me by the hour and we're just going to rock this.
Right.
And but I loved having a conversation without any of that.
Right.
It was really,
it's super refreshing.
It was really refreshing. It was a great way to end the year. And I fixed, literally in an hour and a half, we fixed most of his problems.
Yeah.
That was it.
That's it.
I'm just like, okay. And now moving forward, here's what's going to happen. And I've been able to continue that type of conversation.
Right.
It's been really refreshing. I'm like, okay, this needs to be applied in more things.
Yeah.
And if it's uncomfortable for people, we either work through it or we're not moving forward.
We have a new client that is intensive. It's a lot of work.
Yep.
I knew moving into the client that the work was going to be about 60% administrative, at least at the beginning.
Yeah.
That the administrative part of the work would reduce over time, but that it was going to take a great deal of planning in order to execute what we needed to execute for this client. The team, I told them that over and over again. I told them what to expect. They're not.
Well, they hadn't experienced this before.
They hadn't experienced it before.
So this is a first.
So this
for
is
them.
This is new. So after our meeting this week, we get off the meeting and they're super frustrated. And they're frustrated because the clients are, they're talking about the decisions they need to make. But they're not making the decisions and they're not moving. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
And the team is really trying to push. And I'm like, there's a difference between driving and being annoying.
Yep.
You can drive the bus, direct the bus without telling them that they're stupid and kicking them off the bus.
No shame blame.
No shame blame.
No shame blame people.
No, none of it.
It's
and
not
and
enrolling.
you're not ever, nobody on my, first of all, I'll clarify, nobody on my team would ever tell somebody that they're stupid and kick them off a bus.
Absolutely not.
But they do it with action and behavior and
tone of voice.
And putting things on agendas that people aren't ready.
Emails and texts.
Yeah.
That I'm like,
if
did you
put
shame
something
blame
on a
me?
meeting agenda that people aren't ready to talk about, that's a shame thing. Like you just have to tread lightly in some of these scenarios, and there's a difference between driving and pushing, and they're learning that the fine art of the difference between driving and pushing. And I stayed on a previous call to check in with the head of the client's team and say,
how's this going?
How's this going for you? And she's like, this is great. We're in a good spot. We're getting this workflow down. This is really, really good. This is, all of this prep work. And I said, I'm with you. I hear you. All this prep work is going to pay off in the end. It's what we always want to do. We always want to do a ton of prep work.
Yes.
And we don't usually have the luxury of doing it. And so when we get off the meeting and everybody's frustrated, I reminded them that they've always wanted clients that are super deliberate, clients that are thoughtful about the decisions they make, clients that are, they're going to move things forward, but they're also going to do so carefully and intentionally, and they're going to articulate every expectation along the way. And I said, that's what this looks like.
Yes.
This is what that is. So if you keep asking for it, this is what you're asking for. In addition to that, this was my expectation walking in. We are not in a bad spot. We're in a good spot.
We're doing good.
The only way we're going to get into a bad spot is if your frustration allows you to create this adversarial relationship.
Oh, yes. That
And
would
it
be bad.
cannot.
No, this is a contracted
So
long-term
let's
thing.
take a breath and not create that. And so when I think about this confabulation and kind of trying to again, there's a difference between driving and pushing. Trying to direct somebody only to see what you want them to see is pushing.
Yeah.
Saying, here are all of the facts and this is what I think about them is driving.
Yes.
But you have to state all of the facts, not just the ones that support what you want.
That's confabulation. That's misleading with
misleading
information.
Yes, that's skipping information. And we see this all the time right now. This is what we see in the media when people talk about the lies and when people talk about, gaslighting in the media, and when they talk about all of this, when they talk about gaslighting in general, it's confabulation. It's not
totally.
Providing all of the information. It's directing people to only the things that fulfill one person's goals. And it's super dangerous. It's super dangerous personally in interpersonal relationships, but in a workplace,
it's really
toxic.
It's not healthy. So another way that we do this, I talked about before, was to ourselves.
Yes.
And that appears, oh my gosh, in so many ways. But I'll just give a simple example for myself. So I have this weekly health check-in call that I've been doing for quite a few years. That's how I wound up on the nutritional.
Sure.
Did that with a couple of girlfriends, or we never would have stuck with it. Anyways, teamwork. Anyhow, in that process, we all are aware of and check in about what we're supposed to be, like literally what our leader, our nutritionist we've hired, what she's telling us to do.
Right.
It is fascinating to us, and we've been able to totally identify it throughout the year, how we morph that fact that we share with two other people, how we morph it in our head into a whole new lie.
Yeah.
It's just like 2 weeks later, people call me out, and I'm like, well, you were supposed to start taking this particular supplement. Have you started taking it? Well, no, because I did a little research, and then when I looked some more, and then it has this one side effect, and I'm just not sure. And I'm like, do you know why you were supposed to take that supplement? Oh, yeah, because this and this. And I'm like, okay, I need you to look at your sheet again. Like, we really have to call each other out at that level.
Right.
They'll pull out their sheet and be like, oh, that's not even what it's for. Oh, I typed in the wrong thing. That's not even what I'm supposed to take. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm amazed. Like, I am amazed at how much we
deceive ourselves and distort. Have you ever told a story in a specific way so many times that you think it's the truth?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. This happens a lot in business. You know, we hear about our business story, right? Like, you have to be able to tell the story of your business.
Yes.
And, you know, it's not going to be a lie, but it's going to be an elevator pitch version of the truth that leaves out all of the crying in the shower.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. And all the mistakes,
and all of the mistakes, and all the missteps, and all the doubts, and all of the fears, and all of that. You know, it's going to be a positive spin on this story.
Yes.
And then you tell it over and over and over and over again in all kinds of different ways.
Yes.
And then you start to think that it's the true story.
But it's not. It's not. And that's it truly is dangerous, because
it's dangerous when you start to buy your own.
You make decisions based on your own life.
So when my grandma used to say, it's dangerous when you buy your own bullshit.
Yes.
I'm probably not allowed to say that.
Yeah.
I should probably not. It's dangerous when you buy your own bull. How about that?
Bull honky.
Bull honky?
Bull honky. Bull stuff.
That feels like that should be some sort of slur. I'm going to look that
up.
If
you say it faster, maybe. In another country, it probably is. So we really want you to take this opportunity, now that you've learned about confabulation, start to notice it in yourself. Start to notice it. Yes. It doesn't mean you need to point it out and be like, hey, that's confabulation. Be nice. You're not going to make friends that way. Be nice. Play nicely with the others. But also, if you're in a role of leadership, start to identify it and do start to call it out in polite, appropriate ways.
Because it's the difference of surrounding yourself with yes people and surrounding yourself with people.
Yes.
And so supporting, understanding, and, you know, acknowledging, and I would say rewarding somehow.
Yes.
The truth of situations, the bold-faced facts of situations.
Yes. Like the guy
over the story about why.
Yeah.
That becomes incredibly important. And this is an incredibly important conversation to have, I would say, especially in leadership teams, because I think that people are prone to confabulation when they're feeling anxious, when they're feeling threatened, when they're feeling insecure.
When they feel like they've let you down.
From leadership. Or they feel like
they've let you down, they haven't done their best. When they start, when they're
and high performers are going to do this more often than people who are not high performers, because that's just the nature of high performers.
They've taught themselves this.
Yes.
I will tell you, it's at a higher level, because I'm hanging out with all of them. And
because they've been rewarded for this behavior over and over and over in a bunch of different ways throughout their lives.
Yes.
So this is what they do. Yeah. And they don't even know that they're doing it. So it's up to you to understand when you're doing it so that you can point it out in yourself and then model different behavior for them.
Beautifully said.
Good.
Thank you for joining us.
I've used up my whole beautiful said for the day. Everything else I will fumble over.
Nice try.
It's a good thing we do this in the morning.
It is kind of fun. Thank you for joining us. We have enjoyed passing on to you some information, getting you thinking about some new things, and hopefully inspiring you in just a little way.
And I have a feeling that in 6 months we're going to listen back on this and be like, I think I confabulated in that moment. Yeah.
Well, we both did. We'll figure it out, though. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining.
And have a great rest of your week.